One of the games that I am most looking forward to this year is Black Myth Wukong. Not only does this game look to be one of the most visually stunning games I've ever seen, but I absolutely love the classic story that the game is inspired by, the 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. So in anticipation of the game's release in August, this video is a little introduction to the lore of the main character that we'll be playing as, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. Journey to the West begins with the birth of a stone monkey brought into creation by an ancient rock. It soon becomes apparent that this stone monkey is no ordinary primate. He is imbued with extraordinary strength, intelligence, and fighting prowess, and he is declared to be the Monkey King among his simian subjects. But as time passed on, Monkey grew despondent about the reality of one day dying, and he wished to escape the fate of his mortal life, so he embarked on a journey to obtain immortality. After years of searching, he finally meets Patriarch Subodhi, and Monkey becomes his disciple. His new master teaches him the secret formula to immortality, along with bestowing to him a new name, Sun Wukong. Master Subodhi also teaches him 72 transformations and spells that will aid Monkey in escaping death. While Sun Wukong continued to become more powerful, defeating all obstacles standing in his way, so too grew his quest for power. After many complaints about Monkey's arrogance and recklessness, his behavior is brought to the attention of the Jade Emperor, the ruler of heaven. The Jade Emperor and his heavenly emissaries decide that the best way to keep Sun Wukong out of trouble was to keep him in heaven under their close watch. But even though Monkey's outrageous demands are met, he still can't manage to keep himself out of trouble. After Sun Wukong crashes preparations for a royal feast and creates a mess of the heavenly palace, the Jade Emperor had enough. He sends a celestial army of 100,000 soldiers to arrest Monkey, but they are no match for Sun Wukong and his primate infantry, and the Monkey King forces the heavenly troops to retreat. At the advice of the Buddhist goddess Guan Yin, the Jade Emperor sends his nephew, the general god Erlong, to arrest Sun Wukong. And for the very first time in his life, Monkey meets his most formidable match. Sun Wukong was eventually defeated and brought back to heaven to promptly face execution. But by this point in time, Monkey had achieved 5 different types of immortality, making him immune to all the attempts on taking his life. Sun Wukong manages to escape his final method of execution, and upon his breakout, he was furious. He wrought havoc in an absolute rage upon everyone standing in his way. When it becomes clear that Monkey's assault is a very real threat to the heavenly deities, the Jade Emperor implores the assistance of Buddha to come help. After Sun Wukong demands that the Jade Emperor step down so that he may take his place on the throne, Buddha strikes him a deal. Should Monkey be able to jump off the palm of his hand, the throne of heaven would be his. Arrogantly laughing at the challenge, Sun Wukong immediately set off to prove Buddha wrong. Jumping over 108,000 leagues, Monkey reached the pillars at the end of the earth, and after leaving evidence of having completed Buddha's challenge in the most immature of ways, he returned to demand his new appointment as ruler of heaven. But Buddha reveals to Sun Wukong that the arrogant primate never made it further than his middle finger. And looking down and realizing that he had been on the palm of Buddha's hand this whole time, Monkey attempted to flee, only to be trapped by the hand of Buddha, now having taken the form of a 5-peaked mountain. Sun Wukong was confined underneath the mountain and imprisoned behind a magical seal for 500 years. Sun Wukong is eventually freed from his imprisonment under the condition that he protect a monk named Xuanzang on his journey to the west to retrieve religious scriptures from India. The pair are joined by the demons Pigsy and Sandy, another couple of former heaven dwellers, and from this point in the novel, it very much becomes an adventure story between 4 friends that faced all kinds of perilous dangers, enemies, and near-death experiences. The novel ends with Sun Wukong being reformed of his violent, mischievous monkey nature, and because of his dedication to Xuanzang and their success in retrieving the scriptures, he is given Buddhahood. Journey to the West is 100 chapters long, so this was a very abridged version of the story, but even in my concise summary, you should now be much more enlightened on the story of Sun Wukong. So let's take a look at some of the game footage now, because while I'm going to point out some references to the novel, I think there is ultimately something strange going on. Let's start with Sun Wukong's design. I absolutely love the way he looks. There are so many different versions out there of Sun Wukong in art and media, shows and movies. So to create a distinguishable version of him that really stands out and feels new and fresh is just so neat to see. The animators and designers really went all out on modeling him, and I think he's just so beautifully designed. All of his different outfits are so gorgeous, the fabric textures and details are incredible, and the really cool thing here about the different attire is that while this is a typical game mechanic, you find new armor, they give you certain new abilities, Monkey having different outfits is actually lore accurate. There are several different outfits that he's described as wearing throughout the novel, and I think that the one we see here is actually the outfit that he bullies the Dragon Kings for, a cap with phoenix plumes, a chainmail jerkin, and cloud stepping shoes. We also see Monkey's most iconic weapon, and that is his infamous gold-tipped staff, the Ryu Jingubang. This is the weapon that he received from the Dragon King of the East Sea, and it was once a gigantic pillar that was used to set the depth of the sea. And when Sun Wukong grabbed it, it magically transformed into a pole small enough for him to wield, and he very famously shrinks it down to the size of a sewing needle and tucks it behind his ear when he's not using it. And that's exactly what we see here happening in this scene, and the animation for that is just so cool. There are so many other moments where you get to see more of these transformation abilities in action. Most famously is probably his duplication ability, in which he plucks some of his hair and throws it and shouts change, and the hairs turn into perfect replicas of himself that he uses against his enemies, and we get to see that spell in action during this fight. He also shapeshifts into a beetle, which you can see buzzing around in this scene, and in another scene, he plucks one of his hairs to turn it into a pen to sign a document, and that is actually from the same chapter where Buddha challenges Sun Wukong, and he signs his graffiti on Buddha's finger using that same transformation technique. We see him using the cloud soaring ability, this spell right here that freezes things in place, more physical transformations used to subdue enemies. And again, these are all lore accurate to the original novel, so I'm sure we are going to see a lot more of them in the game. But now here is something really interesting.
你们一定都听过关于他的故事。有人说，他帮唐僧取到了真经。封了斗战胜佛，从此留在了灵山。也有人说，那个成佛的根本不是他，真正的他早就死在了西行路上。还有人说，西游从来都没有发生过，他只不过是说书人杜撰的一只猴子。
The dialogue in this clip seems to imply that we may not really know the true story of Journey to the West, and our narrator is a very different version of Sun Wukong than how he appears in other scenes. Here he looks younger, his fur is dark and lustrous. Here he seems visibly aged, his fur is white and gray. And then back to this scene, he has a shaved head and has a couple of malas, which are stringed prayer beads used in Buddhism to recite scripture. Comparing these variations of his appearance to the events in the novel, it might be a natural conclusion to say that they're just meant to represent the different significant periods in Monkey's life. But there are some significant hints in these clips that make me suspect something is very different from the events in the novel that is taking place, and that these variations of Sun Wukong might actually be separate entities entirely. In this one scene where Monkey is about to deliver a finishing blow to this wolf, he is stopped by a golden-tipped staff, and this is of course the Rui Jingubang that I showed you earlier. And as the camera pans up, we see that it's held by another Sun Wukong. So now we have two versions of Sun in the same scene confronting each other. And this might be a reference to one of the stories in the novel where Sun Wukong meets an imposter of himself that is completely indiscernible to all others. So that might possibly be what's going on here. But another reason that I think we might be dealing with a deviation from the novel is that there are 2 variations of Sun Wukong's iconic golden headband. This golden headband was given to Xuanzang in order to control Sun Wukong's violent monkey behavior. Xuanzang could recite a spell that would cause this headband to tighten and create an unbearable headache meant to subdue Monkey. And in this scene, Sun Wukong is clutching the sides of his head, so someone is using this spell. While we see the golden headband here with one of its well-known designs of the crescent moon in the middle, in another scene, we see the headband in its more iconic design with the little swirls, and picking it up and blowing off the dust is our older Sun Wukong. These images are just giving me multiverse and different timeline vibes, and I'm very excited to see why the heck there are 2 Monkey Kings. Sun Wukong is really just the most ideal character in literature to be the protagonist in an action-adventure game because he is so overpowered and strong and always outsmarts his enemies, and the whole concept of his immortality fits so well for a game where you will probably die a lot fighting these bosses, so Monkey just coming back to do the battle again and again until he vanquishes his foes just makes sense from a lore perspective. Sun Wukong is such a mischievous and boisterous and fun character, and I am so excited to have a game revolving all around him. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion about the lore of the Monkey King, and I'm really looking forward to playing the game and making more content about its story. If you haven't yet read Journey to the West, I will post a link to a site where you can find many different translations of the novel, and I just have to say that it is truly a remarkable piece of literature. It is so unbelievably funny and entertaining, and it's incredible to me because this novel is over 400 years old and it's just as engaging as what you'd read in modern literature today. So I really can't say enough about how excited I am for this game and to experience this story in what is probably my most beloved medium. So we await you, Sun Wukong. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you next time. 管他虚情假意花落水